Okay, so as we drive through our residential neighborhood here on day one of the first things that I talk about with the student is hazard recognition. So, and moving their eyes, searching and scanning, our C acronym, search, evaluate, execute. I might not say that specifically, but that's what I'm working them through. So I would say, okay, as we're driving down the street here, what are some potential hazards that we want to be searching for as we drive through this residential neighborhood? And the driver would sometimes say things like,
cars backing out of driveways.
Good, cars backing out of driveways, right? Sometimes they'll say more than, some kids are, more talkative than others. Some kids will say, kids playing basketball and chasing the ball into the street, or people walking their dog, or people jogging in the street, or, we had a guy mowing his yard with a push mower once, and he turned around and stepped out in the street right as we were coming up to him. So just getting them to think about what they're looking for, right? They're gonna see things a lot earlier if they're actually searching for a specific thing versus just looking, right? And so we'll pick one and we'll say, okay, let's say it's car backing out of a driveway, right? So we want to make sure as we're searching, right, we're scanning from driveway to driveway, garage door to garage door, right? All the way up the driveway, all the way to the garage door. That way, if there is a kid playing basketball or if there is a car up there, we're making sure we look all the way up the driveway, okay? And then you can ask, what might be some clues? We have some cars parked in driveways here. What might be some clues that would tell us that car might be getting ready to back out into the street?
Reverse lights, brake lights.
Yeah, and some kids will say, yeah, you might see brake lights, or you might see the white backup lights. Some kids might be like, I don't know, if they're moving. Yeah, obviously if they're moving backwards, right? And again, that's where our, search, evaluate, execute comes into play, okay? So we see a car, we see their brake lights, we know they're a potential hazard, we keep our eyes on them. Now what? The car's backing up. If there's a potential hazard, what do we want to do? We want to at least cover the brake, right? So you can look, you can see if they're covering the brake and say, hey, we need to just cover it, right? And as an instructor, if there actually is a potential hazard, you want to cover the brake too, because even though you might think it's obvious that the kid sees the hazard and is going to slow down if the car backs out, here's one right here, that might back out in front of you, they don't. A lot of times they don't. And so you don't want to just wait and say, well, I'm going to see how the kid handles this and see if they slow down when they should, because I've done that before and it's come back to bite me because they don't. And then I wait too long and then I'm getting on the brakes hard and it makes a bad situation potentially dangerous and makes the kid more nervous than they need to be. So you don't want to miss opportunities to be able to coach them through things. So again, just kind of going through what if, so okay, car's backing out of a driveway. What would be our first thing we could do? Well, we could cover the brake. Good. What else could we do? Well, we could slow down a little bit. Yep, we could. If that car does back out in front of us and we're getting pretty close, what do we need to do? Well, we could stop. Okay, right? What if we can't get stopped because we're too close? A lot of times, they'd say, well, we could swerve to miss them. Well, swerve might be a bad word. We don't want to just blindly leave our lane and potentially go into oncoming traffic. That would make it worse, right? So we want to make sure we know when we turn the steering wheel, really when we do anything, that what we're doing is actually making the situation better. We don't want to just guess and make it worse, right? So, okay, if we're going to move away from the hazard, and in order to do that, let's say the car is backing out from a driveway on our right, do we know there's nothing on the left-hand side of the road? Do you know there's not a parked car? Do you know there's not somebody walking across the street to check their mailbox? Do you know there's not a bicyclist driving towards you or an oncoming car, right? Because we don't want to move the car to the left and then there's something there and it actually makes the situation more dangerous, right? So again, we got to make sure we know before we go, right? We can't just guess and swerve. So lots of potential hazards you can talk about like that. And again, just getting kids to move their eyes and search and scan and, you know, ask them what they see. What do you see? Are there any potential hazards? Or maybe as you're driving through the residential neighborhood, you say, tell me any potential hazards that you see, right? Or ask them, hey, how do we know this car is not going to back out of a driveway? Or, you know, this car parked on the side of the street. Do we know if there's a person in that car and the car might start pulling out and driving down the street as we get up to them? Or the person might open their door and get out of the car, right? Can we see, you know, can we see any brake lights? Can we see if there's a person in the car, right? A passenger or a driver in the car as we come up behind it, right? So just getting them to think about what they're looking for, and if something bad happens, what they're going to do to make that situation better. And again, the two things that they can usually do, right? The one thing for sure is they can always cover the brake or brake and slow down. That at least buys them some time to evaluate the situation, think about what their best action is. Obviously, it's going to allow them to control the car better if they slow down before somebody backs out into them. And that gives them more control. It obviously reduces their stopping distance, you know. So I always emphasize to them, if you see a potential hazard, don't wait to get your foot on the brake until it's too late, right? If you see something that might be a problem, you might need to slow down or stop for, get your foot to the brake, at least cover it. Doesn't hurt to slow down just a little bit. Again, we want to make sure we're checking our rearview mirror anytime we slow down, just to make sure there's nothing behind us. If we are going to have to get on the brakes hard, we want to know, you know, if there's somebody behind us or not. So